Hey, Tatooine Sons family, this is David. Just a quick update on some changes that are coming to the release schedule and cadence and format beginning next week. This week we'll have our 3 Monday, Wednesday, Friday episodes, but the reality is school for Nathan starting college and work things has caused us to make the decision where we are going to retract back to a 1 episode per week format, and that will begin starting with a release next week. And we're actually going to shift our release day back to what it was for quite a long time, back to Tuesdays. And so beginning on August 27th, we will return to our a little bit longer format, hour-long roughly episode, but that will be coming out once a week. And then I did also want to give you a quick update and let you know that there will be no episode after we go back to this change. There won't be an episode on September 3rd on that Tuesday, because we will be the previous weekend. We will be spending Labor Day weekend in Orlando at Disney World as a family vacation. So we will not be able to record on Monday the 2nd. So then we will return to our normal release schedule again on September 10th. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Tatooine Sons family, for being a part of what we try to do every week. We appreciate you. Hopefully getting back to a weekly release schedule will allow us to have a little bit more consistency and allow us time to do some other things, which would be some promoting and some things that we're doing in Substack, and also open up the door for the schedule to allow for us to do that Christian mythology podcast that we're talking about when we reach 100 subscribers. But that's enough of an update. Let's get to the episode.
This is Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast, the only fan podcast to name a canon Star Wars creature and to be endorsed by the writer-director of The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson. M. Night Shyamalan's movies are often very polarizing, so it's no surprise that Trap has divided audiences. Some absolutely hate it, others suggest it feels like an Alfred Hitchcock film. But for some reason, nobody seems to be talking about the absolute certainty that this film is clearly set in the Powers universe.
I think it's funny that I made you say that line. The absolute certainty of it.
Yes,
we'll talk about
absolute certainty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk about it on the show.
It's set in the Powers universe alongside Unbreakable, Split, and Glass. We'll explain why next. This is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody listen.
Was the first time you guys saw Six Sense at the same time?
Yes.
You guys were watching?
Yeah, Nathan was way too young.
How old were
Way too young. I was like 8, maybe.
His dad.
Sixth Sense. And what time? It was like 9 o'clock at night when we started?
Started it, yeah.
You were already kind
And
of
you lied
tired.
to me. You told me it was like a crime thriller.
It was a crime thriller.
In what world is Sixth Sense a crime
I
thriller?
don't know. It's a crime
It's
thriller.
not a crime thriller.
Yeah, it's a crime thriller. Like that one lady's big poisoning her kid, and
Yeah, but it's not a crime thriller. You're not following an investigation. Kid just happens to find out because the dead boy tells him. Or the little girl tells him.
It's freaking terrifying.
How many
I
days
hated
did
it.
it take for you to get sleep?
Like, a lot. That wasn't a good move. I mean, I love the movie now.
It's a great
but
movie.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Gosh, that was not the right age to show that. I feel like every kid has to like go through that at some point, though. That traumatic movie experience. Sam, it was Spider-Man 3 for you.
Yep.
I guess it was Sixth Sense for me.
3 was his traumatic movie experience.
Yeah.
Mine had a bit more weight.
Yours was more traumatic
Mine
than
was a little more
Sam's.
traumatic.
Yeah, but he was also older than I was in Spider-Man 3, so...
That's funny.
Yeah, well, welcome to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of this generation, that there's a story written on our souls, and that these myths speak to that story. And that's why we're looking at the mythology of the Powers universe, launched by M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable, and its latest installment, Trap. At least we think so.
I know.
We know so.
It is.
Oh,
It
we know
absolutely
so.
is. We'll explain
Sorry.
why.
My
And if
bad.
you haven't figured that out and you've seen this movie, your mind's gonna get blown while we talk about it on
Yes.
this episode. So.
Anyway, make sure you subscribe on Substack. We're still shooting for the 100 subscribers.
We're stuck. We
Yeah.
haven't even actually hit 50. I checked it the other day. Yeah.
It's-
If you want us to ever do that podcast, let us know. It might be 2027. We may actually have seen Avengers Doomsday before I start that podcast. So
Yeah, but we're trying to reach 100 subscribers, so please, please, please download the app, subscribe to us, follow. It takes just a couple minutes, and you don't even have to like do anything with it. You could just subscribe if you wanted to.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
do
mean,
that.
You know,
No
just
pressure
help
at
us
all.
out.
Make us feel better.
Yeah,
It's free.
please.
Please.
Anyway, I think enough talking about what we're going to talk about. Let's talk about what we're talking about. All right, let's start this off as we always do. Our Letterboxd rating reactions to Trap. If you're not familiar, Letterboxd is where you can rate and log all the
Are
movies
you guys
watch.
like staying on top of it every time
yeah.
you watch a movie?
Oh,
Even
yeah.
like when you rewatch a movie like that you haven't seen in a
I
while?
can get it. Yeah.
you-
Like I just watched Alien versus Predator today.
Wait, and?
logged
Okay,
that.
so what's your Alien versus? That's because this weekend.
Yeah, I'm trying to watch an Alien movie that I haven't seen every day until Romulus. I should be able to get all of them done before I get to that point, so I can
It's
at
only
least
like
say.
3, right?
Well, I'm watching the Predator ones too. So there's a second Alien versus Predator.
Oh.
And then there's Alien 3
And 4.
or Alien Cubed, I guess, because it's how
Raised
it's
to the
said.
power of
yeah.
3.
And then Alien Resurrection. So I gotta watch all those.
What
But
was your letterbox rating of Alien
I think it was a
versus Predator?
2.5.
Ooh. Like or no like?
I like.
Really?
It was dumb, and the amount of plot holes numbed my brain, but it was pretty cool to just see some predators fighting a bunch of aliens.
That's fun.
And yeah, a bunch of aliens died and were killed, but it was like by predator weapons, so it felt
So you kind
better
of feel
than
like it's more
Aliens.
legitimate than what happened in Aliens,
Right, and I did some more research, and I'm a little bit more okay with what they did in Aliens.
Okay.
Oh,
but
really?
We'll talk about that on another
yeah.
show when we end up talking
Talk about
next week,
Romulus,
probably
yeah.
about Aliens Romulus.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll go ahead and do our letterbox rating of
Trap.
You two saw it a little before I did
Like
together.
the day before.
The day before.
And then I went and saw it with Olivia. And so I want to get y'all's ratings first. Nate, why don't you go?
I think I gave it a 3.5 or 4, somewhere around there. I like. If I could give it like a 3.7, I would.
You can't.
But I can't. It was good. I mean, you just take out everything that I kind of thought about it afterwards. I think it's still a fun movie. It was good enough and enjoyable enough, and I think that the ending was pretty
That
good.
doesn't deserve a 4 then.
No, that's why I'm kind of gravitating towards the 3.5, but why I would gravitate towards the 4 is the revelations that
things.
come out from it.
Okay.
Or
So-
you think at least.
Yeah, well, no, that I know.
Oh, okay.
Because I came up with it first.
Dad?
I was the one that had the idea.
I was going to put a 3 and a like. But again, with the revelations that we're going to end up talking about a little bit later, I would probably end up putting it at 3.5. That's the right way for me to do this. If the revelations that we're going to talk about are not true, it's a 3 and a like. Mm-hmm. If those things are true, it's a high 3.5 on its way to
exactly.
higher than that.
Exactly.
Because of how it could play into some other things in the future. And I think the reveals that could happen in that would be fun. Right. What about you, Sam? We'll talk about the reveals later, but what were your thoughts on the movie? What were your rankings?
I would give it the exact same rating you did.
Really?
Exactly the same. Yep. I mean, I don't know what more to add to that. I mean, it was just
Okay,
it was
so let's
fine.
take the revelations out.
Yeah.
Of it. Let's talk about it just from a movie, the way that the general public is seeing this
Right.
movie. What did you guys think about this as sort of a mystery movie?
I thought it was
It was good.
fine.
Yeah.
it was an interesting enough premise. There were some interesting moments in it. Some of the dialogue felt extra clunky, like even more so than
When
for
you
like
mean
an M.
clunky,
Night.
what do you mean like that?
Just weird, not good dialogue. Just it felt not natural in any way.
Give me an example.
I can't remember an example off the top of my head.
T-shirt guy.
Yeah, there were a few moments. The mom or whatever of the other girl that was having issues. I don't know, a lot of moments. It just felt weird. And I know it's supposed to be like he's putting on a front for these people or whatever. He's playing a character in that moment. But there was just throughout the movie, it felt kind of clunky at points. It's a small gripe. It's not prequels level clunky at times, but it was just enough to where I was like, okay, this kind of takes me out of the movie for a minute.
What about you, Nate?
I thought it was fun. Cool concept. I thought I was guessing the entire time how it was going to end up, and thought that the main bad guy was cool enough and interesting enough to kind of keep me watching, and wouldn't probably ever rewatch it.
No.
But I enjoyed my time. If it was one of those, if I didn't have A-list, I wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But I have A-list, so might as well go see it, and I'm happy I did. It wasn't like other movies that I've had the A-list with and went to see, and I was like, oh, I probably should have just skipped out on that
another
one.
Shyamalan, not an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Like old, but
or The Watchers.
Or The Watchers.
Or The Watchers, yeah.
Wasn't great.
No.
Trap
Yeah.
was fun. I think that, in classic, if you take out the reveals that we'll talk about in a few moments and you just make this a self-contained movie, the twist in this movie, what is the twist if you take out the other reveals that we think we're going to go through? If it stays self-contained, what's the big twist for an M. Night movie?
I don't know if there is really one.
There's not really one like that you've come to know, like this big overarching thing that's completely changes the
Like
way
in
you
Sixth Sense is obviously that Joel Osment's been dead. Come on, seriously.
Come on.
He's been dead the whole time.
Right.
Unbreakable, it's
Glass that's doing it all.
Glass
Okay,
is
let's not just spoil
and that they're
all of
superheroes.
the M. Night
Okay,
Shyamalan
these movies
we're
are
far enough into
decades
this. That's-
old.
this is the way
I
you do
get it, but
Split, it's more than just the big reveal in Split is the end credits scene,
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, I would give that.
Okay, what about Glass?
I don't remember. I haven't seen Glass in forever.
The big reveal is the organization that's and the psychiatrist that's actually
Has been working with that
working with
organization
that.
the
I
whole
don't
time.
freaking remember.
Signs, it's that
Oh, all the weird quirks of the family and stuff end up
playing
leading
into how they defeat the alien.
Right.
Great movie.
At the end, the village, they're actually not in some ancient, like 150 years earlier village.
You're like killing me right now.
No, it's okay because these are all movies that people and I think that it's important that we establish that M. Night Shyamalan wants you to have to think to figure out a lot of these things.
Well, that's not. I wouldn't say that though, because he wants you to think throughout the runtime of the movie what's the twist going to be, and then he reveals it in the end. With this Trap movie, you're thinking through the whole movie.
Self-contained movie, you don't get that.
There's
reveal.
no reveal, right?
That's why I think that's we're going to talk about the reveal in a minute, but
Right.
I think that's that's actually an argument for this reveal being real. It's him sitting there saying everybody wants this big reveal to happen, like for me to spell it out for you. I'm not going to spell it out for you in this one.
Right.
You're going to have to figure this one out for yourself. But it's there. And when you know it, as we talk about, okay, we're not going to talk about the reveal right now. But Nathan, you and I were watching it. We figured it out in the middle of the movie. You figured it out, and then I figured it out with you.
Right.
And then we were like, and then people even behind us as we were talking about it were like, oh my gosh, they were like picking up on what we had talked about. And they're like, they're right. It is. Right. In our theater. We didn't tease this at all to you, Sam.
No.
Before you saw it the next day. And we intentionally held it back.
Right.
We didn't even allude to them being this major twist.
Nate kind of did a
I
little
did,
bit, but
kind of,
nothing
but
major. It's
no.
I know more
I
than
was
me
trying to
just
get
being
him to
like,
see
oh,
it.
it's an M. Night movie, you know?
So we predicted that you weren't going to figure it out during the movie. Right. So when you finished the movie, I asked Nate, you text him, and what was the conversation, the text like?
I was like, okay, so what was the big reveal?
What was it all about?
And so what? And you responded and told him what it was.
I kind
You walked me through it,
asked
yeah.
some questions to let him get to that conclusion himself, because all of the evidence is there if you look at it through a different lens.
If you go back and watch it again, which again, this goes to me back to the original M. Night Shyamalan movie, Sixth Sense.
Yeah, but they say it in the end.
Yes, absolutely. But what was the fun of that movie was not the first watch. The first watch, that movie is
The first watch is horrible.
It's like,
we
what
don't
is
talk about the
this?
first watch anymore.
It's kind of boring a lot of
It's
the time.
like, what am I watching? I don't get it. Once they reveal the twist at the end,
Right.
the first thing that you want to do is go back and watch it again.
Right.
And it holds up.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That's an M. Night Shyamalan movie. So much so that I rented this on DVD. I didn't see it in the theater. I didn't go to movies a lot at the time. Rented this on DVD and immediately bought this movie on DVD. It was the first movie I bought on DVD.
Yeah, and that's the darn copy we used to watch it.
And I flew home to from Alabama down here to my parents in Colorado to visit my parents. And I made my dad watch it. And then we watched it again. Right? And the second time through, it's a very different movie.
Yeah.
It is.
That's an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Right.
I think M. Night intentionally did this on purpose in this movie to make you sit there and go, where's the twist? If you know it and you go back and rewatch this movie,
Right.
it's going to hold up. But if you don't know it, you're not going to figure it out. And I think that's part of the charm of what he's trying to do with this movie. Could you see that? Because your reaction when Nathan began to ask you those questions was what?
It makes sense. Yeah. What you're...
It all holds up.
Yeah, it holds up.
All right.
Yeah. So, while we all really enjoyed Trap, one thing that we're pointing out, we've been alluding to, is that this movie is obviously, think it's obviously
clearly right?
part of the Powers universe. Okay, so what is the Powers universe for anyone who may not be familiar? The Powers universe is the unexpected cinematic universe that M. Night set up within some of his movies. It started off with
his second movie
of all time, Unbreakable. Now, this was just a standalone movie. It's about a guy. It's a very realistic take on what superheroes would look like in today's world. It's this guy. He just happens to be really strong, not like...
And he can see people.
And he
has instincts.
Yeah, it's basically like a hunch that's really, really strong, right? And he's strong, but not to the point where it's like Hulk level or anything. It's just more than your average person. He's also never gotten sick, and he's survived a plane or a train crash, which is what kind of starts the whole movie. Things like that, right? And you watch the movie as he discovers these abilities, right? And then in the end, you find out that...
And you really figure it out when he's lifting weights with his son.
Yes.
That scene is the scene.
Yeah,
right?
He keeps putting weight on there. And you find out in the end that this guy who's a comic book collector, he's been walking Dunn. That's the
David Dunn.
David Dunn. That's the superhero. He's been walking David Dunn through this like discovery process, and he finds out that Mr. Glass, has orchestrated numerous different.
He's called Mr. Glass because that's his name. His name is Ira Glass.
Right, and he's got brittle bone syndrome, so he can't he's got to be very careful. And so you find out that Mr. Glass has orchestrated numerous different catastrophes throughout the years, plane crashes, train crashes, including the one that Dunn was on, all to find a superhero. And
that was the exact opposite of him.
Right. Someone
his
who can't be
arch
broken.
nemesis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right.
And so we find that out, and that's the big reveal.
Movie.
A fantastic movie, right? And then years and years and years later, I don't remember when this movie came out.
2016.
It was just another M. Night Shyamalan
It was just another M. Night movie. It was Split, about this guy who's got dissociative identity disorder, but like times a million.
Which looked really freaky in the trailers.
It did.
Which to where we didn't watch this.
And
it took
wasn't
us a while.
really that freaky.
But it looks like it in the trailer.
It looks like it's horrible.
Yes.
That's the issue I have with some horror trailers nowadays, is they make it look so much more terrifying than it actually is, and it turns me off.
But it's got this guy. He's got dissociative identity disorder with some like 30 plus personalities or something
27.
crazy. Okay, thank you. 27. And then at one point, there's this one personality that's alluded to throughout the movie called the Beast. We're wondering what it is. It comes out. Turns out the Beast is some weird latent.
Physically changes.
Yeah, he becomes really strong. He's able to climb walls, but it's just by like grabbing imperfections in the wall. He's almost like fully bulletproof too. Like he stops a shotgun round or something. Like he's just a complete freak of nature, right? And that's the end of the movie. He walks out. He's escaped into the real world at this point, and then there's an end credit scene.
Stop.
Okay.
Stop though. If they don't do this end credit scene, is there any way anybody is going to be connecting this to the Unbreakable story at this point?
No,
not really. No, I mean there might be, of course, the crazy
this is
theory.
The same plot. There's this guy. We'll talk about it later. He's super strong. He overcomes stuff. He gets away at the end.
Mm-hmm.
There's no end credit scene making a big reveal in Trap.
Right.
There is
in Split.
Right.
You see David Dunn in a bar watching a news report of this guy, the Beast, getting out.
And that's you realize it's connected to the Unbreakable story.
And then Glass comes out. I do not remember Glass.
Great movie.
At all. I know it was good. I just do not remember.
Explain the plot line, Nate.
A few of these people are around. David Dunn's still doing superhero work when he can. The Beast is still doing his thing, kidnapping teenage girls.
The girl that was kidnapped is a part of that story.
Is later on. But the Beast is kidnapping teenage girls again. David Dunn stops him. They eventually both are put into this type of psychiatric ward, kind of. Come to find out, that's where Mr. Glass has been this entire time. They start talking and finding ways and things that are going wrong with the place, and then eventually try to escape. And
David Dunn's son, who is a part of Unbreakable,
is a part of this as well.
This story
and
as well.
So is the mother of Glass. She's a part of this as well. And so is, the girl that got away in Split. So they're all kind of have some type of influence in this story as well. It ends with David Dunn dying, Mr. Glass dying, and I think the Beast dies as well after he tries to attack the tower in Philadelphia. And then we come to find out
which is important because Unbreakable, Glass, and Split are all set in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Correct.
And then the main psychiatric lady, I don't remember what her name is, but we come to find out that she's actually a part of a secret organization that's trying to kind of snuff out these superpowered beings around the world, pretty much, and they're all part of
find them and control
find them, know them, control them, or kill them. That's
pretty much. The general public isn't ready for that sort of thing,
pretty much, and that's the big reveal, that's the big twist, and that's pretty much where it ends. Like they set something up, and then we're like, okay, cool, great. We're not getting another one made. That was kind of where we came from because Glass didn't underperform, but.
It just felt like it was the end of a trilogy.
Yes.
Right. And so why would you set something up at this point? I mean, all the characters that we know are dead. Like, what's the deal here? So,
yeah. So, speaking of that, though, Trap has not in any way in the movie or externally been confirmed to be a part of the Powers universe. But why do we think that it is? Now,
Nate, when did it click for you in the movie?
Well, I started to get suspicions that something was off. Just kind of at the beginning of the movie, loud noises were setting him off. He didn't eat any junk food at all. He took a piece of his pretzel that he got with his daughter, like he was about to chew it, and then the concert started and he threw it in a cup on the ground. Like all of this stuff was just off. So I knew that something was wrong with him, but I didn't know what. And then
he went to serial killer. Of course, something's wrong.
Well,
with him.
Something unnaturally wrong, just with his physical being. And then he went to go help the t-shirt guy lift the boxes, and the t-shirt guy's like, hey, can you help me with this? And he just picks it up and he's like, wow, you're so strong. And I'm like, that's a really weird line to put.
Okay, yes, in an M. Night Shyamalan movie and set in Philadelphia,
right,
that suddenly makes you go, wait.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay, there's something else. There's something really going on here. He's strange. So.
I didn't connect it at that point, but I did. Something triggered in me that was a weird line.
Right.
And people have complained about that scene.
Really?
Because they act like it doesn't make any sense. It's like it feels weird.
Without it being
if
there.
It feels weird in an M. Night Shyamalan movie. It's there on purpose.
Right.
You can say that about Old, and Old was just bad and all around. So
Okay. Well, some people really like Old somehow. I don't.
All right,
More
fair
power
enough.
to you. And I never saw Knock at the Cabin. But
So what else? Keep going.
that all happened, and then when it clicked for you, Dad, is when we saw the butcher kidnapping Spencer. I think through that security footage when he's
Yeah. When they
van.
see the guy that's been kidnapped, that's the central plot point of what's going on with this whole story. He's been kidnapped. We finally see the closed circuit TV footage, and there's this van, and somebody is in the van. You can't see him, and Spencer walks up close to the van, and it happens so fast. You could think it's a glitch in the CCTV footage. I didn't see it as a glitch in the CCTV. It felt to me like he grabbed it, and I'm like, at that very moment, I leaned over to you and I said, "This is part of the glass stuff in this," because that felt like a superhero.
Right.
And then there's more things. The names of the characters is what grabbed you.
Is what really kind of started to connect it with me. I mean,
in this movie, what's the villain is called?
The Butcher, which is an awesome name for a serial killer. Just the Butcher, it's cool. But then you bring in some of the other names from the Glass universe, which I totally did not connect that David Dunn's superhero name is the Overseer.
He's called the Overseer, or sometimes he's called the Protector.
So cool. Such a cool superhero name. You have the Overseer. You, of course, have Mr. Glass. Then you have the Beast. And
who's also, and that same actor, James McAvoy's character, is called the Horde as well.
Yes. And then you have the Butcher. All various superhero-esque names. And then you bring in the Butcher with these strangely superhuman abilities. And you can even throw in there super intelligence. The dude had every type of scenario dealt with. Anything, like had it planned out and was able to improvise quick on his feet and
I feel
all
like
of that.
in some ways the dude has like the abilities that oh gosh, what's her name in Deadpool 2? Domino, where she
Domino
like is
luck.
lucky. I mean, seriously, dude just like got lucky 4 million different times
about in this movie,
right?
But
so it kind of feels like at points he's just gotten lucky. So,
so what are some reasons why you think this Butcher character, other than the things that we've talked about, is a powered being?
Well, I mean, towards the end, he eats a piece of pie that apparently has like a whole bottle of sleeping pills in it, or a ton, at least, that
which
we know
he's
of.
been using to drug his victims.
Like, and he says just one or two will do, and then he takes like an entire bottle. So you think he's going to be zonked out pretty quick. So he starts walking and hallucinating his mother and all that stuff. That's kind of the big, I guess, motivation for him.
It's just it's a lot
weird.
like the Horde.
Yeah,
he had mom
it is
issues.
a lot like
so.
because they beat his,
I'm not saying it
his
was
no, but that makes it connect to the same ideas,
right? And so he takes a bunch of sleeping pills, and then he goes and gets tased 4 times and is fine. Like walks out and is completely under his own weight, is completely okay. And then he gets it to the van and planned on being kidnapped because he kept a piece of a paperclip, I think.
No, he took a spoke off of
the bike wheel.
Yeah, and had that planned and then escaped.
And he gets away at the end.
Yeah, he's gone.
What were the questions that you asked Sam after do you remember what you texted?
No,
what you guys?
not a
I think
clue.
it was just kind of like asking about the pie, asking about the taser.
No, it was
asking
more
about-
just like leading him.
It was the
in
Philadelphia
direction.
connection that got me, because I did not pick up that that's where they were, or that's where the Powers universe was set. So
Yeah, I mean, a lot of M. Night movies are set in Philadelphia, but it just feels a little convenient that all of these are so similar to each other, set in the same place, all of that stuff. And then you bring in, I don't know if we're talking about this, but the profiler.
Haley Mills, which is really interesting because her start in film was to play a twin character in the movie Parent Trap. And then she's one of the main characters in this movie Trap, which I thought was interesting.
But her character, there was something not off with her, just you know that there was more going on with her. They focused on her too much, focused on her knowing about the Butcher a lot, and just a lot of these things that they set up that they never really realized and kind of gave us more about it. Like, how did she know so much? Which I know, again, people had issues with that.
A lot of people.
It's fair. But when you kind of think about it from the way that Glass ended, and an organization of people that know a ton about superpowered beings and make it their job to know about them and control them and trap them, it makes a bit more sense that somebody in this high end of power would do anything in her power to capture him.
Yeah.
And I mean, she was adamant on capturing him, like, more than anybody else. So that was another big thing.
Mm-hmm. So why do you think they haven't confirmed that Trap is part of the Powers universe yet?
Money. That's specifically it. I think they were waiting to see if this movie made enough money, and I don't know if it really did.
I don't think it did.
So announcing it afterwards was just a testament to see if it made enough money to announce this was, and we're bringing him in for another movie in the Powers universe. But if it didn't make enough, they didn't want to commit to another movie in a franchise that may not have enough legs to keep going if they build it off of this new character.
See, I completely disagree. I think that there's no reason they needed to confirm this as part of the Powers universe. I think that M. Night Shyamalan is going to continue to make M. Night Shyamalan movies. He's never going to have a problem making these movies. He's had bad movies before, movies that have underperformed before. They keep letting him make movies. He made this movie. He's already said he made this movie so his daughter could sing on stage. Right?
Yeah.
He produced another movie for his other daughter to direct a movie. Right? The Watchers. And that was a bad movie. He's going to continue to make movies.
Yeah.
Someday, I think we're going to see M. Night Shyamalan make a movie that feels like it has nothing to do with any of this universe. And suddenly the Butcher's going to show up in it. And they're going to connect the Butcher to that the Unbreakable universe, the Powers universe, and that movie that he's making to it. And it's going to make people go back years later,
Right.
to rewatch, which goes all the way back to the Sixth Sense model, which he wants people to go back and rewatch stuff again,
Right.
for him to be able to say, "See, I did this the whole time." Because remember that moment in Ocean's 12? I know this seems weird, right? But Bruce Willis is in this.
Oh, yeah.
And Bruce Willis everybody's talking about the Sixth
I knew you were
Sense to him.
dead. I knew you were dead the whole time.
And he's like, "Oh, sure you did."
Right.
I think he wants to get years in advance. And then people start saying, "Well, we knew all along that was part of the..."
Nah, you didn't.
And he's like, "No, you didn't. You hated this movie." We get to go on record 2 weeks after this movie came out. And I actually, on our social media, put it out
right
the day
after,
of, tweeted to him about this, that we know that this is part of that universe. Because when that happens, and if we're wrong, it's fun. But if we're right, we have receipts.
Yeah.
Using my Deion Sanders
Right.
Coach Prime, I'm keeping the receipts on this one.
Well, while we may never get a confirmation that the Butcher is living alongside the characters who survived Glass, I guess it's like the Sun. Maybe the Sun will have powers. We'd love to believe that someday a surprise could be revealed in a future Shyamalan movie.
Anything else?
All right, well, I think that's going to just about do it for this week's episode. Thank you for tuning in. If you're not familiar, our weekly release schedule is Mondays. We're going to talk about what we're excited about. It's a little late for Trap, but we had to talk about the D23 stuff last week, so we're talking about Trap this week.
Next week's going to be Alien Romulus.
Yes. Almost certainly.
Super excited.
Wednesday is New Comic Book Day. This week we're going to be diving into the anchor beings concept a little bit further, see if there's any comic basis for that. And then Friday is our monthly series. This month we are going through The Acolyte. And this week's episode will be interesting. I have a feeling we're going to be talking about the production quality of the series. So be sure to tune into those.
Positive.
Be sure to tune into all of those. And thank you for
I wrote
listening.
that episode, the script for it. I know what we're talking about. It's going to end up being honest, but I think
It'll be good.
A different conversation than you've heard anywhere else.
Yeah.
So
I guess we said at the top of the show, be sure to follow us on Substack. You can get some weekly recaps, a little bit more in-depth exploration as to the things we talk about on the show. And then, of course, better community engagement. Help us reach that 100 subscribers. You don't even have to do anything. Just sign up and follow us, please.
Yes,
we would appreciate it. But is there anything else that you would like to say?
May the force be with you.
may the force be with you.
May the force be with you, always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.
Joy, please.
Yep, yep.